Hey everybody, we're going to learn how to make a cranky box at home. To start, you're going to need some barbecue skewers. You could also get a pencil or some chopsticks, some scissors, a knife. You might want your parents to help you use that, some tape, and a box. We have different boxes here. This box of Cheez-Its might be too narrow, but you could maybe figure out a way to fit in everything in there. Maybe for that one you would only need 2 sticks. You could use a tissue box. This is kind of a nice size box. This box would be a little long, but you could also cut it. You will also need a pencil and maybe a ruler. I'm going to use this tissue box. I'm going to start by taking it apart and turning it upside down to look at this little plastic thing. And it's great because I already have this little window, which is where my little performance can take place. So I'm going to start by ripping out this plastic stuff. If you don't have a tissue box, this is the step where you would need to cut your own square or circle frame for people to see inside your cranky box. So that's where the knife would come in. You could also use a ruler to measure out and cut it straight. Even more toastiness. Even more tastiness. Even more cheesiness. Cheesiness. Cheez-Its. So now I've traced out the shape that I want to make my frame. I did 1/2 inch from the top and 1/4 inch from the sides. Your box might be bigger and you want to make sure that you have a little bit of a lip to make sure it's strong. This is where your parents should probably help you. Before you cut, make sure you're cutting on something that you don't mind getting messed up. So I'm cutting on top of my Cheez-It box. And it helps to cut a little bit at a time. The more times you cut or score it before you cut all the way through, the smoother the cut's going to go. You could also use your ruler, line it up, and go nice and easy along that edge. I find it's easy just to start by drawing that line on the line and then cutting. So now I've cut all around and I've taken that little piece of cardboard out. So now you're going to decide which is the top and which is the bottom. So I kind of folded it back together and I'm going to add 4 sticks. 2 in the front, make sure that the paper stays taut, and 2 in the back are the ones where the paper is actually on a scroll. So first we'll do 2 dots in the top corners. Maybe for my box it might be like 1/4 inch from either side, and then in the back or center, probably around here for mine, I'll do them maybe 1 inch in on either side, and that'll give me some space for the paper to roll around the skewer. So now I've drawn the dots in pen for you to see. The 2 in the corners that are going to be the tension bars and the 2 spools, okay? And I did the same thing I measured on the other side. You can also stick it through one side and kind of make sure that it's straight. So you stick it in and then you kind of like guess where that is and do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just measured so I made sure that mine was going to be straight. Now I'm going to take the knife and I'm going to make little holes right there so I can stick the stick through. So you kind of stick it in and you twist it back and forth really carefully until you get through. Now I've made the holes and I've actually used the point to make sure that it goes all the way through, just like that. So now I've stuck my sticks in, and I'm actually going to cut them with scissors very carefully. If you cut a few times in one spot, you can kind of wiggle and break it. So I'm going to cut these down so I don't poke myself. Okay. So you cut like this, you make a little dent, and then you're able to just snap it like that. So now they're trimmed a little bit. The front 2 sticks, the tension bars, don't need to move. So you can take some tape and you can lay it flat on there and scrunch it down so that they don't move. So now I've taped the tops and the bottoms so these things don't move, but these things in the back still spin. The other thing I need to think about is how I'm going to eventually load my paper in this thing. So I'm actually going to cut a hole in the back as well. And I'm just going to cut that whole square out. So now I've cut all the back off so I can get in there. Now it's time to measure and cut your paper. So you want to look at your box and make sure what size it is and how much paper you're going to need to cut. I'm just going to find some white paper and cut it in half and tape pieces together. But you could also find some maybe parchment paper that's already on a roll and cut it the height that you need. You want to make sure that your paper isn't too big. So it should still be like an inch shorter than your box. I found for my box, I just need to fold one of these pieces of paper in half, long ways, and it's going to fit right in there perfectly. So I'm just going to fold these pieces of paper in half and cut a few of them so I know that'll be, because I know that'll be the right size. Now I can just cut along the crease that I made. So now I've cut multiple pieces. It depends on how long you want your cranky to be. But what I like to do is, if I'm just using individual pieces of paper, I can just keep making drawings. And as I finish the drawing, I can tape these pieces together. I'm using masking tape, but you could also use Scotch tape, the clear tape. It might be better. But for mine, I would make sure this would be my drawing, and this would be the back, so you wouldn't see this. Before you do your drawing, think about what direction you want the paper to go. Now your cranky could be going up and down. It could be going side to side. I'm going to have it start here and it's going to scroll this way. So my first drawing isn't actually going to be at the end. You want to make sure that you leave a few inches to a whole foot of extra space. So I'm just going to go ahead and make my first drawing towards the end of this piece of paper because I know that this should be enough room to get from the front bar to the back one, because this is a part that's needed for the mechanism for it to crank, but no one would ever see that part. So I want to have my drawing start later. Remember, you can use lots of colors like crayons and markers when you're doing your drawing. To load it, you want to be looking at the back of your drawing. You want to feed it all the way to the front, around the tension bar, and then around the other tension bar. It's a little tricky, so just be patient. And then with a little bit of tape, you're going to tape that around your first spool. And keep on rolling, and you can help to make sure that it's feeding through the whole thing nice and straight. And then once you fit it all the way through, you're going to tape the last bit right here to the other spool. Just like that. And then as you spin it, the whole thing should unravel the other way.